Hello, everyone. I've been browsing Reddit for a while now, and have come across many stories about cheating and betrayal. That reminded me of my own painful experience, but I want to share that I came out of it in the end and you can too. This is actually my first post, so forgive me if I don't have everything down correctly. Here's the main part of my story. I shared it with another commenter a few months ago, and I've been thinking of turning it into a post, but I wasn't sure if I was ready. So sorry in advance. It's a bit long. Back in the day, Chloe and I were the best of friends. We go way back to our childhood. Our families were close-knit, and we were practically like family ourselves. Chloe and I were always each other's support system. She went through some tough times, like when her mom had a health scare, but I was there to help her out. And when I went through a terrible breakup in high school, she was the one who got me through it. Despite having some feelings for each other, we never pursued a romantic relationship because we were scared that it might ruin our friendship. Despite her being strikingly beautiful, along with her mother and sisters, I kept our relationship strictly platonic. However, I couldn't help but notice that some of her boyfriends were quite similar to me, and she would often get into fights with them over comparisons. I felt responsible for their breakups and suggested to her after her last one that we should spend some time apart so she could figure out what she truly wanted. The next day, she texted me asking if we could talk at her house. I was nervous about what to expect. As I walked into her living room, she sat me down and spilled her heart out. She confessed that she was head over heels in love with me and wanted more than just our platonic friendship. My initial reaction was disbelief, thinking it was some sort of prank since it happened on April Fool's Day of all days, but then she leaned in and planted a kiss on my lips. In that moment, I realized that I had been blind to what was right in front of me all along. I berated myself for not taking a chance with her sooner, unaware of the deep emotions that she had been harboring for me. Everything with us was perfect. I felt like a king who had finally found his queen. Our families were over the moon already planning the wedding, even though we had just started college. Her dad joked about time. I was starting to wonder what was taking so long. We did everything together through the good times and the bad. We faced everything head on and never kept secrets from each other. Yep. We were that couple. She looked like she was the one, the love of my life, always telling me she would love me forever. I was on cloud nine, feeling like the luckiest guy in the world until I started noticing that my girlfriend was spending a lot of time with my younger cousin who was 18 at the time. I always looked out for him and considered him like a little brother, but I couldn't help but notice the way he looked at my girl sometimes. It was the way a predator looks at his prey. I asked him what was going on, but he always brushed it off and walked away. I didn't think much of it at the time. One night, while Chloe and I were relaxing in my dorm room watching a movie, she suddenly said, "Please don't ever leave me," in a sad voice. I assured her that I would never leave her, but she only gave me a sad smile in return. That's when I knew something was off. Our relationship had taken a turn for the worse. Chloe started acting distant and withdrawn even during moments of closeness. It felt like she was just going through the motions to make me happy rather than making us happy. This went on for 5 long months, but on Valentine's Day, everything changed. Chloe was back to her old loving and fun self, giving me all her attention. I even saved up to buy her a beautiful diamond necklace. It was a great day, but fate had something bitter in store for me. I had planned to propose to her that night, but I had forgotten the ring in my dorm room. After I dropped her off, I went back to my car to check and to my horror realized that the ring had fallen under the seat. As I was about to enter her house to surprise her, I note my cousin's car pulling up and parking right in front of her house. I hid my car in the shadows so he wouldn't spot me. Chloe opened the door and they started talking. He kept trying to kiss her, and she half-heartedly told him no. But then they started making out. She took him by the hand and let him inside without even bothering to close the door properly. I was fuming. My breathing turned ragged and my heart was pounding in my chest as I stumbled backward in disbelief. I couldn't wrap my head around what I had just seen. Part of me was telling me to wait and think things through. But another part was urging me to take action. I made the decision to confront them. I quietly entered the house and listened for any sounds of movement. It didn't take long before I heard her loud moans and his grunting from the living room. I was filled with rage, but I kept my cool. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and crept towards a corner of the room, witnessing something that would forever be ingrained in my memory. As I watched, she was bouncing on him like some kind of wild animal. It was the last straw. I knew what I had to do. So I called out to them and they both jumped like they'd been caught stealing. She scrambled off of him and they just stared at me like I was a ghost. She tried to plead with me. I can explain, please don't hate us, but I wasn't having it. My cousin was looking white as a sheet, knowing he was in deep trouble, but I didn't stick around. I held up the engagement ring I'd been planning to give her and told her he threw this away. Then I turned and left. They chased after me trying to put on their clothes and pretend nothing had happened, but I wasn't listening. I had all the proof I needed, and I was done with both of them. Then came the insane text messages like, "I'm sorry. Please talk to me. You're misunderstanding the situation. He don't know what happened. It was a mistake. He was just being a good friend helping me out. Don't ruin everything. We can fix it. Why are you being so petty and immature?" And my favorite, it didn't even last that long, kept flooding my phone. As I read each message, my blood boiled. She had the nerve to defend her actions and make excuses for her betrayal. I wanted to lash out and say everything I was thinking, but I held back, waiting for the right moment to strike. Every word she typed was like another nail in the coffin of our relationship, and I wasn't going to let her off the hook that easily. To wrap things up, she attempted to pin the blame on me when I didn't reply. But it all fell apart for her when I exposed the truth. And the aftermath was a complete disaster. Her sisters, with the exception of the youngest, tried to point the finger at me and manipulate me into taking her back, but I didn't fall for it. Then they dropped the bombshell that it had been happening for 5 months. That's around the time I noticed them growing closer. She had been sleeping with both of us. No protection from him. I knew at that moment, I was finished with her. I caught them both nearly naked. She had only her bra on, and he had just his socks. It was like some ex-geeks movie playing out in front of me, and I was unwilling audience. The sounds and moves she made with him, I thought that was reserved only for me. She used to always tell me how much she loved my body, but seeing her get excited with his bony backside made me feeling secure for a while. There was no way to reconcile that betrayal. All I could think about as I drove away was, what did I do wrong? I had given her everything, and she rewarded me with a knife in my back. During our relationship, she was taking birth control. And although there was only one time we didn't use a condom, I made sure to protect myself. It turns out it was a good decision, considering my idiot cousin had unprotected contact with her and likely finished inside her. Despite all that, I never once raised my voice at her or treated her poorly. I always tried to make her happy and felt that if she was happy, then I was happy. We had known each other since childhood, and I was convinced that she was the one for me. Once we went to a tarot card reader at the mall, and she predicted that I would find a great love. I laughed it off, telling her that I already had that with Chloe, but looking back, that should have been a red flag. I'm still grateful that I caught her in the act. I would have made her my wife and never known who she really was. The fallout was catastrophic, as you might imagine. After I caught them in the act, her parents wouldn't stop calling me asking what had happened and saying that Chloe was inconsolable. I decided to tell them the truth. Her mom collapsed on the floor, and her dad apologized to me repeatedly, saying I didn't deserve this. The whole affair divided our families, and we lost many friendships in the process. Every time I looked at my phone, it was blowing up with texts from her sisters and our so-called friends. They were begging me to talk to her and take her back, but I wasn't about to rug sweep her infidelity. It was like they expected me to forgive and forget, like she didn't make the decision to cheat on me. And then her sisters spilled the whole story about how and when it happened. Turns out, she had been lying to me for 5 months, telling me she was working overtime her job while she was really sleeping with my cousin, and apparently, he was terrified every time I went to see him and my aunt. I felt like a fool for trusting her and believing her lies, and now they were all coming at me with excuses and blaming me for not being forgiving enough, but I wasn't going to let them gaslight me. She made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. Chloe's calls became a regular thing, but her voice now had a certain desperate edge to it. It was like she was carrying a weight too heavy for her to bear. In her voicemails, she would sob and plead for me to talk to her to give her a chance to make things right. But I knew that was impossible. I'd given her everything and she threw it away. So I did what I had to do. I blocked her number and refused to engage. My cousin, on the other hand, was a different story. He knew he messed up and he wanted to make it right. He tried calling me a few times, but I ignored him each time. It was bad enough that he slept with my girl, but to betray me like that, it was unforgivable. As I drove away, I couldn't forget the smug grin he threw at me through my rear view window. I knew if I saw him again, I would want to hurt him. And I could easily do it. And he knew this, but I wasn't about to throw away my freedom for that piece of trash. My aunt tried to tell me he felt guilty, but I didn't buy it. He had done it because he wanted to be me. He said it was all BS. That was the last straw for me. I cut them both out of my life completely, moved away, and never looked back. I was 22 then. She was 20 and he was just 18. The first year after the cheating incident was a real struggle. It was the first time I had been betrayed in such a way, and it really messed with my mind. But luckily, I had a great support system consisting of my mom and dad, and my close friends who were always there for me. In fact, my buddies even planned a trip to France with me to help me clear my head. Seeing the Eiffel Tower, trying some delicious madeleines and learning a bit of French helped me regain my confidence. And taking candid photos of French girls to sketch really gave me that extra push. Things changed for the better. I'm now a 27-year-old graphic designer making some decent cash and enjoying my life. I've been on a few dates, but nothing serious. And then a few months ago, out of nowhere, Chloe's youngest sister reached out to me. She got my new number from my parents and wanted to catch up with me. I always liked her, so we started chatting and reconnecting. It felt refreshing and exhilarating to talk to her again. The last time I laid eyes on her, she was a cute, scrawny kid with metal chompers, but when she sent me a recent photo of herself, my jaw hit the floor. She was stunning beyond words. I knew her family was always easy on the eyes, but, puberty did this girl a favor, so we decided to meet up and catch up on old times. When she hugged me, it was like a bear hug from the cutest, most lovable teddy bear. I didn't want to let go, but I didn't want to come across as a creep either. We began spending more time together and she confided in me about what happened after our fallout. She revealed that my cousin had impregnated Chloe that night, and they attempted to work things out for the baby's sake. However, both of them ended up cheating on each other, and everything went downhill when Chloe gave the baby up for adoption. Following that, she relocated to LA. As for my cousin, I neither know nor care about his whereabouts. She spilled her heart out to me, confessing that she had a secret crush on me for the longest time and that she felt her sister didn't deserve me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But I was intrigued. She even admitted to having fantasies of us playing house. I didn't know what to say at first, but the more we talked, the more I realized that I felt the same way. I told her I was interested in her and wanted to give dating a shot if she felt the same. And now that's where I am excited and hopeful for what's to come. I've got a great job, a great life, and I'm falling in love again. And you know what? I'm happy after everything that happened with Chloe. I've learned a lot and I want to share my insights with people. I want them to know that there is life after infidelity and that it's never too late to start over. Most importantly, I want to remind them to never settle for second best. It worked for me, and it can work for you too. Hey, folks. Got some thrilling updates on my recent encounter with Chloe after 5 long years of no contact. And let me tell you, it was one hell of a mess situation. So my girl, Amber, and I made our way to Chloe's family event to celebrate her favorite cousin's birthday. The little type could play the piano like a pro, and Amber was eager to show him off to me. The party was going well, which everyone enjoying themselves and even Amber's dad teasing us about marriage. But then, out of nowhere, the old crew with Chloe as their ringleader emerged from the crowd. My jaw hit the floor when I saw how stunning she still looked. I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions, anger, betrayal, and attraction. She still had that laugh I used to love and was turning to be the center of attention. As soon as I caught a glimpse of Chloe at the party, I couldn't help but notice that she still had that same infectious laugh that I used to adore, but I wasn't ready to face her yet, so I quickly turned away to avoid being noticed. A few hours passed, and the party started winding down. Amber excused herself to go to the bathroom, leaving me to chat with some people about my graphic design work. Suddenly, we heard raised voices coming from the living room. We rushed outside to find Chloe and Amber in the middle of a heated argument, with the eldest sister frantically trying to calm them down. Chloe accused Amber of stealing me away from her and claimed that sisters should never go after each other's boyfriends, leading to a near physical altercation. Chloe fired back with a nasty retort. "Then you should have closed your darn legs," and then shoved her eldest sister aside as she tried to throw a punch at Amber. Amber managed to block it and was ready to retaliate until I stepped in between them. I was fed up with the constant drama between the woman I loved and her ex, who happened to be her sister. It was time to put an end to this once and for all. I escorted Amber to a safe spot, making sure she was okay, then turned to Chloe, snapped, "What is wrong with you? She's your own sister." I could see the tension in her eyes. And as we locked gazes, she spoke with a quivering voice. "You came." It was the first time we had seen each other face to face in years. All eyes were honest from the living room to the backyard, and the atmosphere was thick with tension. I could sense the embarrassment of her parents and couldn't help but feel sorry for them. Her eyes started to well up with tears, and she asked if we could have a talk. I knew that this was going to be a pivotal moment, so I agreed on one condition. Amber had to stay with me. Chloe tried to argue that she wanted to speak with me alone, but I was firm in my stance. Either Amber stayed or I was out. It didn't matter to me either way. Amber had become an integral part of my life, and I wasn't going to keep her out of the conversation, especially when it involved her own family. She was now a part of my family too, and she deserved to be a part of this discussion. We moved over to the pool area, and that's when it all began. Me. "So what's up, Chloe? You look great. Blue has always been your color. It's really nice to see you again." Me. Not taking her bait, but remaining courteous. "Thank you. So what is this about? What do you want?" "Chloe, I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I just wanted you to know that I've thought about what I did to you for a long time. You were so good to me, and I messed it all up. Believe me, when I say I don't know why I did it, me. That's a load of garbage, and you know it." Chloe's revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. She whispered that she and AP had a daughter named Annalise. My blood boiled with anger. During our 3-year relationship, we had talked about baby names, and if it were a girl, we would have named her Tessa, after my grandmother. Chloe knew how much that name meant to me, and yet she went ahead and named her daughter Annalise. Even Amber was taken aback by this. I could tell that Chloe had never told her family the name of the baby before giving her up for adoption. Amber sensed my anger and took my hand, rubbing it to calm me down. Chloe cleared her throat and gave Amber a nasty look, demanding to know why she was still there, insisting that this was between us. Me. "Listen, Chloe. Amber and I have been together for a year now. And it means more to me than the 3 years we were together. I love her and I see a future with her." Amber's eyes were welling up with tears as she smiled at me and squeezed my hand tight. It was bittersweet. Me. "And just so we're clear, anything you say to me, you say to her too, Chloe. You don't get it. Do you? She's been obsessed with you for years. When we were kids, she used to write love poems and recite them to stuffed animals, imagining that you were there with her. You're not supposed to be with her. You're supposed to be with me." Me. Looking at Amber smiling. "Did you really write love poems about me? Can I read them?" Amber blushed and replied, "They're pretty cheesy." Me. "Let me be the judge of that." Chloe interrupting, look. I know you're with her just to hurt me, and I understand tit for tat. You're with my sister, and I was with AP. But can we start anew? I've learned from my mistakes, and I'm sorry. People make mistakes, but I've grown from it. I want to earn your trust back. Can I make it up to you? Will you at least consider it? This girl had some nerve. At that moment, I was finished. Me. You squandered any chance of reconciliation when you betrayed me years ago on Valentine's Day of all days. It's time for you to hear me out. For 5 years, I kept questioning myself, wondering what I did wrong and why I wasn't enough for you. But it took a lot of soul searching to realize that the problem wasn't falling in love with you. It was being blinded by you. I used our friendship to delude myself of what you truly were and why your previous boyfriends never stuck around. You're hollow, always searching for someone to fill the void within you. You never figured out what you wanted. I won't pour myself into your glass of emptiness. I thought seeing you would be harder than this, but I don't feel anything for you anymore. I had enough time with new people, hobbies, and places to help me move on. We're different people now. And when I look at you, I don't see the girl I grew up with. I see someone who needs to get their act together. I found my true love, and it's Amber. I love your sister, and I hope to marry her someday when the time is right. If you want to make it up to me, be a better sister. Get your act together and stop this pointless fighting. You used to be her hero, so start working to regain that status and go from there. Chloe was bawling her eyes out, trembling like a leaf in the wind. She realized that any hope of reconciling with me had been blown to smithereens. She seemed to want to say something, but eventually just shook her head as if to say that she understood. And gave up. Then she asked to talk to Amber privately and beckoned her eldest sister over. I stepped back to give them some space. In the end, all 3 sisters were crying and hugging each other. It looked like they had finally reached a place of understanding. As their mom watched with tears in her eyes, she held onto my hand and kept saying, "Thank you" to me. Their dad also gave me a big hug and thanked me. The emotions of the whole situation were overwhelming. When it was all over, Amber broke down in my arms crying and thanking me. She said that Chloe gave us her blessing and that she loved me. Amber then asked if it was okay for her to stay with her sisters for a while to properly catch up with her family, to which I replied, "Of course, take all the time you need." I assured her that when she's ready, she can call me. And I reminded her that she still owes me those poems. Finally made it back home, and boy, what a day it's been, but I gotta say I'm feeling much better now. I found my peace and helped my girlfriend's family start the long journey towards healing. I never thought I'd be able to reach this point, but here I am. And now I can look towards the future with hope and optimism. The shades are definitely getting brighter. My dear ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that life goes on even after a heartbreak. Don't let it defeat you. Always aim for the best and never settle for less. We're not second options. We're valuable and deserve the best. The scars we carry remind us of our strength to overcome the worst pain and turn it into power. I know this may sound cheesy, but time, patience, and good company really do make a difference. It's never too late to heal and move forward. Remember, you are worth it. We all are. Keep fighting, my friends. Keep fighting. This may be my final post, but thank you all for reading my story. And I apologize for its length. I didn't want to leave out any details, sending good vibes to everyone.